Hey everyone, welcome back to the Young Adult Podcast. It feels like it's been a while since we last did this, even though it's probably only been this little bit of a week break maybe. I don't really know. You also might notice that Dorian and I are actually in person with each other.
Yay!
This is
high five.
A really weird concept. Lexi is at home, but that's great. She was working with us today. But with that, this is going to be the final podcast for this season. We're about to enter back into summer. It's going to allow us for a little bit of a break. And ideally, we're aiming for mid-June to meet back in person with each other, which is, it's pretty crazy. Like, we're super excited about this.
I couldn't wait. And, I just came here. He told me not to, and I just showed up.
I told him not to come, just like I've told him not to come to each podcast that we keep recording. But for some reason, he just
keeps showing up.
He ends up in it. Yeah, I don't get it.
That's what happens.
Yeah. So we've been discussing this for a bit now, and we feel that it would be okay for us to start meeting up in person for young adults. While that's not going to mean meeting here on campus, but at an outside location, we will discuss what the details look like in the coming weeks. But with that, I'm super excited to see you guys in person. This is a game changer. So. We're thrilled. It's going to be great. I'm really excited to be back with you guys. I think there's going to be some really cool stuff that God's going to be doing in that time. But yeah, so after this podcast, it's going to be a little bit of probably about a 3-week break or so while we have other events, and we'll discuss that at the end of this podcast. But leading kind of into that, and this is going to be kind of today's topic, but we've now been in this quarantine period for a number of months. However many weeks it's been, I honestly have lost track at this point. We have been in this for so long now, but with this idea of we've been living this life of quarantine, not going out, not gathering, not doing anything, but kind of investing our faith in God during this time. We now have this opportunity where we are going to go back into the real world. We're going to be with people. We're going to be having to live out our faith.
That's a scary thought.
Yeah, it is a scary thought. I've been sitting at home on a computer with you guys all day long. So it's a weird thing to think about how we have to start living out our faith again. And again, that's leading into today's topic of focusing on this idea of what James 2 talks about, of why we need to live out our faith, but also what we should be doing about living out our faith in the coming weeks as we start to enter back into social gatherings and stuff like that. And so I know you have the verse set up. Would you like to read into a little bit of James 2 for us?
Yeah. This is coming out of James 2, chapter 2, verses 19 and 20. It says, "You believe that there is one God. Even the devils believe that, and they shudder. You foolish person, do you want evidence that faith without deeds is useless?" Amen.
So a little bit of something that we don't like to hear very much, us being called out on our actions there, but
it's like a kick in the teeth.
Yeah, but honestly, it's
a good kick in the teeth.
It's a good kick in the teeth, and it's one that we do need to hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an encouraging verse.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. So I guess looking at this verse, why do you guys think it's important to be living out our faith? Why is it important to know that in James we're being called out to live out our faith? Our faith is useless without it.
I'm big on Bible context and original language and all that jazz. When the Bible talks about faith versus works, there's really 2 parts where it does that. One in Romans with Paul. And he basically says, your works can never save you. It's by faith alone. Mm-hmm. All right? And then James, he talks about this right here. And he's like, your faith is meaningless without works. And it seems contradictory,
right? But
they're talking about 2 different things, really. Yeah. Paul is talking about how you can never earn your salvation by doing stuff. Right. James is talking about proving your salvation. It's you already have it, but you're trying to prove to others that you have it. And you do that by your actions, by your work. So if you say you're a Christian, but you don't do anything like it, are you really a Christian? Because it doesn't seem like it,
Right.
It's that kind of thing. So this is kind of important. Because Jesus says, if you deny me in front of your peers, I will deny you in front of my Father. That's more than just words. That's in actions. Yeah. So I don't want to be denied by Jesus.
Right.
I want to go up to heaven. He's like, hey, you well done, my good and faithful servant. You're like a well done steak. I like you. I want you here, right?
Steak. I love it.
Anytime I go out for meat, I say, well done, my good and faithful servant. And then I have to change my order. But that's what that's the affirmation I want. So it's super important to me. Like I'm living a life where other people look at me and say, hey, that guy's doing something different. I want to find out what it is, you know?
Yeah, sure.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
Amen. I just got the spirit tingle. My work here is done.
There it is.
That's cool. Yeah, no, I actually totally agree with what you were saying. And I, when we talked about doing this, I even said it, like in my own life, I have a really hard time separating the two of like acknowledging, okay, faith without works is dead, but also acknowledging that the works don't save me myself. Mm-hmm. And so what you said actually really hit home for me, Dorian, of like that realization that doing like displaying my salvation, I would probably use a different word choice. Instead of saying like proving my salvation, it would be more of like the testimony of God's saving my soul. And so instead of like proving to people that I am saved, it's like, look what God can do for you too. And so maybe that is like the point of, okay, we need to go out and you need to have well, like the production of things is what basically like the Bible says. And if you talk about other times when the Bible talks about different fruit of like our salvation or our lives, like I think of the fruit of the Spirit and how that's just a reflection of God and his character. And so how, if we can like show that in our lives, even that in and of itself is some sort of like spiritual work. Like you can see the work that the Spirit is doing in you and through you. So that's super interesting. I never even really thought of it that way until just now.
Mm-hmm. I had a meeting with someone this morning, and like we talked about it and explained it this way. You sign a contract with Jesus, right? And there's like big bullet points, and it's you believe in Jesus, you are saved, you're going to heaven. Those are the 3 big bullet points. Mm-hmm. Then there's like the terms and conditions, where it's like, hey, if you want to get love, peace, joy, patience, kindness, whatever else there is, because I can't remember. That's like you have to live for me. It's like that terms and conditions that no one really reads, but it's still
a little asterisk down below.
Yeah. So like it's not a requirement, but it's there. You know,
for sure.
Do I look here?
I know this is really weird. We don't know how to do a podcast, guys. It's been so long.
Sorry, I wish I was there. Sorry, guys. That's super interesting too. Like that's a really good way to look at it, the terms and conditions, because I even learned recently, like I was having a conversation with someone about salvation. And to some degree, I think a lot of people really believe that like you can either like lose your faith or you don't have faith if you don't have those works in your life. Like, and because of that, maybe you're not saved, like if your actions don't reflect salvation. And so that's super interesting that it is like the terms and conditions, and you can have those things, but you don't get them unless you do that work for it. That's interesting.
The key is to explain everything using like small words. Well, this is how I explain to junior hires. I use small words, but I talk about big concepts, and it just works everywhere.
Okay. I mean, I'm an adult, so I can learn big words, but
it helps me out. I don't like big words. They scare me.
Yeah, totally.
But that, I mean, it's a good thing to know. Just like, you know, our faith is to be lived out, and the whole terms and conditions thing. We signed up to be followers of Christ, and we signed up to be living it out too. Like it just wasn't like when we devoted ourselves to be followers of Christ. Of course, that comes along with it, and I think we forget that a lot too.
I mean, who reads the terms and conditions?
Right, who does? Anyways. But of course, it's so important, just because if we weren't to do that, our faith would just stop there.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't continue on. And it kind of reminds me of the song, and I know this is like a really cheesy song, and a lot of people, like some people are fans of it, some people are not, but the Carrie Job song, Blessings. And it talks about like in the middle of the, I guess, I don't know if it's the chorus or I don't know music terms, whatever the music terms are. But it basically talks about like how they want to share their faith not only with their family, but then their children, and so on and so forth and so forth and so forth, and continue it on. It's such a cool thought that we have the opportunity to do so. Yet then we sit here and say, well, that's kind of scary to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to just go talk to my stranger over there and you know, just start sharing the gospel. Like that's just, it's a scary thought. You know, we were born to do so, but then now we've been stuck behind a screen for the last however many weeks we've been doing this for.
Totally.
And
social anxiety is so real.
Social anxiety it's a big deal right now, because everyone has been living in this world that, we're all stuck behind a screen, but we're getting back to the point where we can start to be in person with each other and be okay. And so I think the first, I guess, month or so, it's gonna be strange.
Yeah.
It's gonna be weird trying to figure out what that life looks like again. But I think in the middle of that, we just have to be supportive of each other and help guide each other of what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an easy thought. I'm not the type of person, although I know I lead young adults and I know I live in this world, but I'm also, I have social anxiety. I freak out.
You?
Me. How dare I?
You're not, you make mistakes? Oh my gosh.
I'm not perfect. I know, it's crazy. Crazy to think. I know I put myself out there as perfect, but I'm not. Totally kidding. I'm not perfect. But I freak out talking to new people like that. That's just not something I normally, I don't think anyone really likes to just meet new people. There's those few people.
I like to meet new people.
Okay, well, there's people like Dorian, but
I'm weird. I'm not the example. I'm weird.
For most of us, it's scary meeting new people.
I will agree with that. It is scary.
It's freaky. I think I've shared this story before, but one of the coolest things that God did in my life was that, I might have shared this in the whole testimony podcast we did, but getting called by God to reach thousands of college students at my college when I was going there.
Mm-hmm.
He invited me to lead a small group and to reach out and knock on people's doors, inviting them to my small group. That freaked me out. I was a little introverted Nate, not knowing what to do. Like, I didn't want to do that. It's not my forte to just go knocking on people's doors, being that evangelist, inviting people to my small group. But that's what he called me to do, and I had to trust in him, and it was awesome. We reached over, we knocked on 750 doors and reached over 1,500 freshmen.
That's crazy.
Which is like, looking back on it, I was like,
that's insane.
I would have never done that.
That's crazy, bro.
I would have never done that at all. But yet that was God's calling to me then, and I think that's God's calling for us now. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's crazy, like God's calling, like, for us, and like him, like, production, like, works in our life doesn't have to be like one thing. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, evangelism, or I go on a missions trip, I'm building houses, I'm serving at my church. Like, that doesn't even have to be like that works that produces like good fruit in your life. Like, sometimes for me, like, displaying like my love for Christ or my relationship with God is like, I have terrible road rage, like horrible, self-proclaimed. Like, I definitely get very upset. And so sometimes, like, I'll be driving and I'm getting upset, and like, I will literally have to consciously be like, okay, what can I take from this situation? Lord, this is Southern California. There are cars everywhere. This is traffic. This is normal, but it's stressful. And then I have to be like, okay, I am learning patience in this moment. Like, for me to take an hour to drive from Dana Point to to Irvine, ridiculous. But in that, I learned patience. And so I'll have to sit there and be like, patience is a virtue. Why do I want a virtue like that? Jesus was patient. And like, to literally sit and meditate on things like that in moments where it's like, this is so dumb. Like, this is just dumb. It's taking things that are frustrating and like day to day and mundane, and actually sitting there and being like, I could pull something from this, even though it sounds so dumb and so cheesy. Like, genuinely, it's important for us to like dissect our lives that way, because there are a lot of little moments that can amount to big things. Our life isn't about every single like ginormous moment. It's about the accumulation of little ones. And so like, taking these different like things that frustrate us or whatever, and just kind of like dissecting them and what I could be learning in a different moment. Like, that's just one example of like something that I've learned to do. Or like yesterday, I was walking with my friend and we went to a coffee shop, and she heard that it was the lady in front of us. It was her birthday. And my friend is just very like so sweet, like such a sweet person. And we're walking away from this coffee shop, and my friend was like, happy birthday, and like waved at the lady. Like, we didn't talk at all. She just said, happy birthday. And it literally, the lady was like, thank you so much. I hope you have such a great, like, it was, like, it obviously, like, warmed her heart that my friend said happy birthday to her. And so even that just, like, it was just a reflection of Jesus to me, because I feel like Jesus would have been like, hey, happy birthday. Like nothing crazy. It doesn't have to be like, our reflection of Christ in our lives doesn't have to be like those crazy big moments.
Yeah.
It's just the little like acts of kindness and like things that it's like, that's cool. That's Jesus to me. So like, I hope that I like do that in my life, or I sit and I'm like, how can I just, even in little things, just be like, happy birthday. Have a great day, you know?
Yeah.
Yep. For sure. Yeah. I like that a lot. That's cool.
Yeah, dude, that's the best. One of my favorite ways to witness to people is with the little kids that I coach for swimming, and this is the simplest way I do it. Swimmers, how many hands do you touch the wall with? And they'll say 1 or 2, and when they say 2, I say all the hands God gave you, and that's it. It's like,
yeah,
but like they grabbed onto that, and like every once in a while, one of them will come up to me and like, hey, Coach Dory, what does God say about this? And I'm like, you're only 8 years old asking me about like this topic. That's awesome, but that's terrifying. But, like it's the little things like that that make a difference. Like everybody wants the, I don't know, like the Greg Laurie or the Billy Graham moment where you're on a stage and you're like, Jesus loves you. Like, stand up if you want to be saved, and then thousands of people do. Like, it's not what it's about. That's like for what, 6 people out of the 7 billion on the world.
Right.
Our responsibility is just show Jesus in the simplest ways.
Yeah. For sure. I also like, I kind of got an image in my head of just like, this has come up several times before, of just thinking like, I think we want to see who we're reaching out to. I think we want to see them saved, and we want to know who we saved.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we're not going to know till we reach heaven.
Yeah.
Which is like, that's a crazy thought to me, that we're going to have an opportunity in heaven to meet the people that we reached out to.
Yeah.
Dude.
Like that's a pretty big thought. And like that excites me, but also scares me.
Someone's going to come up to you like, hey, you don't know me, but down on earth, like you were at a Selma's and you just said God bless you to someone, and that moment changed my life and I got right with the Lord. You're like, if you're going to have like a moment like that, like how cool is that? And terrifying.
It's pretty terrifying. But it's awesome. And of course, like for those of you listening.
I think like for me, I feel like, what'd you say?
Lexi, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that like, I don't feel any pressure in that regard, because like, which is funny because you guys both obviously like that you said that was like terrifying or like crazy to think about. But like for me, I'm like, I feel like it's totally my job to just like sprinkle seeds everywhere, but I'm not the one who waters them in any capacity. Like it's totally the Lord's job to like cultivate the like that in these people's spirits. And so for me, I'm like, maybe they do hear like God bless me and they like figure something out, but I totally know that it's like the Spirit who even made me say like God bless you so that person was around. So I think it's way more like, I'm like way more eager to see like how that person interacted with like the Spirit in those moments, because genuinely like I do not believe in any way that like any of these people are going to learn anything, because I'm a person, dude, I do things that suck all the time. Even today, I was like not the nicest today. Like I was definitely like on my sass game that was like next level. And I know, I can't even believe I just did that. But that's what I'm saying. Today it's like different. I don't know what's going on. But like there are just days, man, where my sass level's next game and it's like, this needs to slow down. But like maybe someone saw Jesus in me today. I don't know, because Jesus is just choosing to show his face whenever he wants. So that's just kind of like what I hope and pray for every day is I'm like, okay, Lord, like use me today, even if I don't think you're using me today.
For sure. Yeah. And I think it's important that you brought that up too, of just that, it's not our job to technically save people.
No.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's our job to start to cultivate that seed, but we're not Jesus. We're not able to.
That job.
We're not able to physically save people. And of course,
that's a scary job.
Yeah, that would be scary. If that was the case, I don't know if I would want to do this job. But it's our job to start facilitating those places where those seeds can start to grow. It's not our job to physically save people ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So if that was our job, I don't think we'd be doing a very good job at that. We're only supposed to be the ones planting the seed, and we let God do the rest.
Mm-hmm.
A mentor once told me that like Dorian, if you go into ministry, your job is to leave people with more questions than answers, but the questions can only be answered by the Spirit. Right. And then you've done your job.
Yeah.
Dang.
That's
But I'm so down.
Yeah. That's still pretty scary thought,
Yeah.
but at the same time, that's a pretty big burden lifted though from
Yeah.
too.
Well, and if you think about it though, this kind of goes back into like our initial conversation. If you are producing like works in your life and you're like gaining more of the Spirit, like you're learning new things, you're becoming peaceful and humble and kind and gentle, in my opinion, you'll have more seeds to be able to throw out into the world. Like you'll have more that you can pull from to show people. Because if you only cultivate like one skill, like if I only became a gentle person, like that was the only evident fruit of the Spirit in my life, I couldn't reach as many people versus if I was kind and patient and loving and all these different things. That's when I think like, oh, I could reach way more people, have way more seeds to offer the world than if I'm just like, well, I'm gentle, so I'm good. That's what Jesus did with me,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and again, also just like for those of you listening, and I think we're going to even struggle with this, getting back to the routine of things of just, living out our faith. Like, what does that truly look like for us? What are we going to be doing in our day-to-day lives that we have those opportunities to, show that? And of course, it's going to be hard just because we've been living behind the screen this entire time. It's very easy to live out our faith when we don't have to actually show anything.
Yeah, when you don't have to wear pants, it's easy.
Dorian did that way too many times.
You can't prove that.
Well,
you can't prove that.
I'm hoping not to prove that, but that's not my job. But we're entering back into this period where we start to have to, we're going to have to live out our faith. We're going to have to actually show others that we follow a God that loves us so much, that got us through through this time. That was a big struggle. And so, it's going to be hard right off the bat. And I'm sure you guys listening too are going to have struggle with that as well. It's not easy, especially like, I think we've all have that social anxiety now that we've been stuck behind a camera for so long.
Yeah.
We don't know how to really live out our life like we used to.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's going to be just interesting. But
very. Yeah.
I see you pull up scripture.
I do that always.
You do that always.
Yeah.
I was just curious if you had something to say.
Yeah. Just like we're talking about practically living out a life to show Christ and stuff. Above all else, like everything, it boils down to the concept of love. Like all of 1 Corinthians chapter 13. I love this, and they're like played at weddings and stuff, and it's great. Classic. But it's just, if I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, then I am a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move a mountain, but I don't have love, I am nothing. Like, if I give everything I have to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but I don't have love, I gain nothing. It's like, if we're not loving people, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, it's pointless. Love, just love.
I think it's a simple starting place.
Yes, just love people.
Yeah, I think that's just it's a good area to start. Just, it doesn't take much.
Yeah, just asking someone how their day going,
right.
Like being intentional about it, or smiling.
And also, I think that also requires us to acknowledge that we are worthy of love. So just as much as it's about giving, it's about receiving, because we can't love people the way Jesus loved us if we don't believe that we're worthy of Jesus's love.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of times I've heard, and this might just be me, I honestly don't know. But I personally believe that like God created me worthy of his love.
Right.
And I think sometimes it's taught to people that we are sinners, you are bad, you're a human, humans are gross, but like God created me this way. And so if God wanted me like to look like something else, to have a different personality, it would be so. Like God has that power. Like he is fully in control. And so if we believe that God is fully in control, then we believe that God created us inherently. If he's calling us to love, then he must love us because he's asking us to reflect his character. And so then, and it's also so hard to love people when you don't feel like you're worthy of being loved in the first place. And so maybe it's even just like individually taking a minute and just sitting there and like, I did this a couple years ago. I heard a pastor say it. He's like, okay, everyone, we're just going to sit here for a minute and you're just going to sit and acknowledge how much God loves you. You're just going to sit there and be like, God, thank you so much that you love me so much. And it's not selfish. It's not like not humble. It's not anything other than, you know what? God loves me. He's done great things for me. And I'm going to go show that to the people around me and I'm going to go love on them. Because if he's like the cup that overflows all the time and he is love, then it's like, oh, I have that too. I have all this extra love. What am I going to do with it? Spread it out. Spread it to the people.
Spread it out.
Amen.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, I think, there's a lot of broken pieces that we have to start to pick up, and I think it's going to be weird and it's going to be hard to start off, but I think, love is going to fix a lot of those things.
Yeah.
At least it's going to be a good starting point too. I think everyone is a little bit deprived of that right now.
Oh, definitely.
It's very hard to show over a screen. We've been living in this world too long now, and we're coming back finally, but it's going to be different and it's going to be weird, but I think it's our job as Christians to be as loving as possible right now, to show out our faith, and just live life the way that we're called to, live it by God.
Yeah.
And I think people are going to start to look at us and say, there's something that they have going on in their lives that I'm curious and I want to know more about. And I don't think it takes much to do that. So, with that, I really encourage you guys to, start to look into what you do in your daily lives and how you can start to show Jesus through that. Whether it's saying hi or just, checking in on someone or, asking people on the street what they're up to or how they're doing. And, it doesn't take much just to love someone. And I think that, like you said, it's a good place to begin. So, yeah. Do you guys have anything else to add to this topic before I go ahead and close out? Are we good?
I think one little, just to kind of cap off what I said a couple seconds ago, the phrase loved comes to mind in those moments where I'm like, okay, to remind myself, okay, love others and be loved yourself. It's not just about okay, I need to love everyone. I need to keep everyone
that's very
together.
true.
Just love others and allow yourself to be loved too.
That's also very true. Yeah. And I think that's a good reminder for us too, just because within all those broken pieces that now we have to pick up, I think our own broken pieces are within that mess as well.
Oh yeah.
And so I think also quarantine brought out a lot of us that we don't enjoy and that we're not proud of. But
Absolutely.
And I stopped wearing pants. I mean, you can't prove that.
Rest in peace, Dorian's pants.
Rip to Dorian's pants.
Rip pants.
But, I think we have our own messes that need to be loved on as well.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
And so
I
think, like Lexi said, we need to allow ourselves to be loved by others as well. I think that's super important for us right now, and I think that's what we also do really value right
brothers.
Yeah. So, with that, I mean, you guys are going to discuss this more within the after virtual gathering that we're going to have, which I think is going to be our last one, which I'm sad but also really excited about.
Well, it's going to be fun, but
it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be great.
Great things are to come. Right?
We're gonna have Dorian leading it.
Sweet.
Which might be a really good thing. It might be really bad. We're gonna find out.
I promise I'll wear pants.
He's gonna wear pants, ladies and gentlemen. So that's all we could ask for right now. I have a meeting that I have to be a part of, so I sadly will not be there. But I'm hoping to maybe catch the end of it if I can. But if not, I'm sure you guys are going to have an awesome time. It's going to be directly after this podcast goes live at 7:00. So, be there, be ready to discuss this topic more. And I think Dorian's going to do a fantastic job. Some upcoming things that, I want you guys to be aware of. Again, after this week, we're going to go in kind of a 3-week period of this break. So I can catch my breath. We can all catch our breaths. And we can be prepared for when we actually start back up again mid-June. And so, one, be looking out on our Instagram for updated info on what's going to be happening. We also have a graduation parade that's going to be happening on, I think it's June 13th. Is that correct, Lexi?
June 11th, actually.
June 11th, my bad. June 11th. That's going to be happening. It's going to be a whole graduation parade for at least for us, it's going to be incoming seniors that are graduating.
Yeah.
And so, I want to encourage all you guys that are listening in to join us in that. You guys are all invited to come and love and support all of our incoming seniors that are going to be coming. So we're super excited about that. We want to welcome them into young adults.
Fresh blood, I like this.
Fresh blood for Dorian, so that's fun. You're going to abuse them or something? What's going to happen?
No.
Pick on them?
No.
What are you going to do?
A little bit.
Okay, there it is.
It's the lovingly tease.
Right, the loving tease. Welcome in new students. So we're super excited about that. I think that's going to be a blast. We'll make sure Dorian doesn't pick on them.
Yes.
Maybe a little bit of heckling, but who knows?
Just a little.
Just a little bit. So yeah, that's something for you guys to look out for. Again, more information is going to be on our Instagram coming up. So be paying attention to that. And then again, just be on the lookout for when we're going to be meeting up again. It's going to be coming up mid-June. I'm super stoked. It's been a long time coming, and when we actually get to meet up again, I think it's going to be a phenomenal time. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. But other than that, we've loved doing this podcast. Mm-hmm. Who knows if it's going to continue in the future? That's going to be a discussion that we're going to have. But so if we decide to do this again and continue it on for another season, we'll let you guys know. But for now, this is the end of season 1. We've had a lot of fun doing this.
Oh, yeah.
It's been different. It's been interesting. And we hope you guys have enjoyed it too. It's a little bit sad for us to be ending season 1, but
I'm not crying, you're crying.
I don't get it. I think we've learned a lot from each other, at least.
Oh, yeah.
And even talking with you guys in the virtual gathering afterwards, we've learned a lot from you guys as well. And so we're really grateful that we've had this chance to be able to do this. I know it's not been ideal. There's been lots of technical difficulties. There's been lots of miscommunications. We've been using Zoom. It's not been fantastic, but it's worked in the time that we've had it. And so we're grateful that you guys have stuck around, and that you guys have even loved us during this time as well. And so we're grateful for that. It's been awesome. This isn't the end of young adults. This is, in my opinion, just the beginning of something new. So
oh, yeah.
We're really stoked. It's gonna be awesome. So
yes.
With the frozen image of Lexi right there.
Oh, sorry.
No,
that's the greatest picture.
My internet's been unstable.
What did it look like?
It's just Lexi going.
It was awesome.
It's been great. But with that, that's gonna conclude season 1. We'll see you guys afterwards in our virtual gathering, our hopeful last virtual gathering that we have before we start to meet up again. But yeah, that's going to do it for season 1 of the Young Adult Podcast. Thanks everyone for listening in and watching, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye guys.
Bye everyone.
Bye.